Hey guys, Jim here. Wanted to talk just for a few minutes about a subject that I find really important. Customer service in the custom knife world. Something that, some makers excel at and some makers really need a really strong wake-up call. Now, I'm not here to call anybody out. I'm not going to be talking about any particular bad service that either I've experienced or I've heard stories of others, because that's not what I'm here to do. What I'm here to do really is raise the awareness and then praise some certain makers with certain examples. And what prompted this, actually, unfortunately, I don't have an example of it here because I wanted to make sure I got everything back to the maker, so I shipped everything yesterday, was I was on the phone with Alan Foltz. And you guys might recall last year I did a review on an Alan Foltz Inertia that I purchased. And there were things about the knife that I absolutely loved and certain things I couldn't get over, size being one of them. And I'd shot him an email because I wanted to custom order a larger version, because he's one of the makers that will do pretty much anything. He'll make something from the ground up for you. And I never got a response. And I was bothered by that. I was like, man, that really sucks, because I would have really liked that. Well, it turned out he never ever got the email. And thank you to my good friend Leon Ma for speaking with Alan and confirming that with him. So I was able to reach back out to Alan. He gave me his phone number. And we talked for a little while, and he says, yeah, I'm sorry about that. What is it that you want? I'm happy to do whatever I can to satisfy you. So we started talking, and we were talking about different materials and sizes and detents and whatnot. And he says, listen, he goes, I've got a prototype here that I would love to send out to you so you can feel the action that I'm putting into this knife now. And besides that, he says, the particular scale material that you're talking about, it's a bit of an off color from the way it photographs, and I don't want you to be surprised when you get it. Let me cut off a slice of that. I'll anodize a piece of titanium in a couple different color ranges, and you can mix and match and see what works out best. And he shipped that stuff out to me, and I got it 2 days later. This is the kind of service that you do not expect from anybody. I mean, no matter how much you're spending. And Allen's customs are, in my opinion, very affordable for all of the detail that you're getting. So I was completely blown away, and I went, wow, this is, this is definitely guarantees that I'm going to be ordering a knife from him. And I did, and I placed my order, and now the wait begins. But a few others that really impressed me, just very recently you guys saw me do a review on my Les Voorhees Model 15, and I absolutely love the knife. It is just so friggin' kick-ass. But there was one thing that I had remarked in the review that I was not so fond of, and that was the pocket clip that he chose to use. Well, Les actually watched the video, and I don't know Les. I had never reached out to Les. We had never communicated. He saw the video on his own and left a comment on the video and said, hey, just contact me. I'm happy to make a clip for you. And he made the process so simple and so painless. He says, just tell me what you want to do. So I gave him a few options of what I thought would look nice. Then I said, really, ultimately, this is your design. You tell me, what you want to do. And let me know how much you want to charge to make the new clip. Because I don't expect somebody to do something like this for free. I mean, you pay $50 to $150 for any maker to make a contoured titanium clip like this. And he got it the very day that he got it, with all of the work that he has to do and all of the prep for Blade Show and everything else. He says, okay, I got the knife today. It'll be done by tonight. Not only did he get this clip made and installed in the same day, but we had an issue with this pivot. And this is the same exact issue that I had with the exact same pivot on my Graham. And they were coming loose. And myself and someone else have a theory as to why this is happening. But I do want to reach out to Steve Kelly before I go making any public assumptions. But we think there might be a reason for it, because this is the third knife I've had with a Steve Kelly anodized titanium pivot that has gotten loose for no reason. And no matter how much you Loctite it, it gets loose again. So Les took the time to make sure that was right, so the blade is perfectly centered. Everything works great. I have no issues. The knife is astounding, and it's perfect in every way now. And that clip works great. I carried it the day after I got it back. So just to see somebody take time out of their day, doesn't know me from Adam, did not get the money from me to purchase this knife. As a matter of fact, all four of the knives I'm going to speak about here, these were all bought from collectors, not from the individual maker. And those makers reached out and made huge gestures to make sure that I loved the knife that I owned. And these are also guys that their books are closed. I think you can actually every now and then get a knife from less. I don't want to say that as a true black and white, but we know these three guys, you're not going to own anything by them unless you buy it on the secondary market or you're already on their books. And so it's not about, well, if I do this, then that means this guy's going to come back and buy more shit from me in the future. So it's money, money, money. That has nothing to do with any of that. We're talking about just great customer service to do the right thing. When I made my Graham Ramble video, one of my absolute favorite knives ever. As I was making the video, during flipping of it during that day and during the video, my blade started walking over to the side. It became uncentered. And I didn't know why at the time, so I just tightened my pivot back up and it centered back up just fine. Then the next day I was flipping it again and it loosened itself up again. And John reached out to me and he says, hey, I watched your video and I don't like the fact that the blade was off center. Now, I didn't even mention it in the video. He was watching so intently that he noticed that. And a couple of you guys in the comment section of the video did as well. And he says, I really don't want a knife with my name on it in your collection that isn't perfect. So please send it back to me so I can take care of that pivot. So he took care of that and it's been perfect ever since. I've had zero issues with it and it's been a constant daily companion. When you guys saw the follow-up video I did on my Brad Southard Tarsus, all of this additional work that he did to strip the bronze, refinish the titanium, and while he was doing that, what I had asked him to do during the spa treatment, he went ahead and did more. He added the ceramic bearings and the ceramic detent and fine-tuned the action, and all these things that really weren't necessary. I loved the knife as it was, but he wanted to create something that I would just be completely and wholly in love with, and I am. And finally, Jesse Gyros. I had bought this after searching for one for a long time from a collector, and I was sharing my experiences with Jesse and told him, how much I loved the knife, how incredible it was. And I said, hey, would you do me a favor if I paid for the materials, paid for your time, whatever else, would you make me a Damascus clip that would kind of complement my bolsters instead of the spring clip that's typically provided? He's like, oh, hell yes, send it on down to me. Sketch up something, give me an idea of what you want, and I'm happy to do it for you. And, in about a week, I had my knife back with the new clip on there. He had taken the whole knife apart and recentered the blade. There were some issues where someone prior to me had taken the knife apart and did not reassemble it correctly, and it was about to become problematic. So he took care of that. Now my action is, well, incredible is the only way to put it. I'm even more happy with it than I was the day that I initially reviewed it, and you guys may remember, I did love it. And these are all things that give me pride of ownership. Not only because the knives themselves are amazing, and I truly love each and every one of these, but it makes me proud to be able to tell somebody when they're saying, well, I can't believe you would spend X amount of dollars for this or that knife. That's when you could tell them, it's not about the materials, it's about the work that goes into it, and it's really about the person behind that. And to be able to say, hey, yeah, I just made a quick review of this knife that I loved, and the one single only thing that I could say about it that I wasn't completely thrilled about was the pocket clip. And the dude who made it reached out to me and said, hey, let me make you a new pocket clip so that you're completely happy. I mean, holy shit, that speaks volumes for what you're paying for. I've talked about packaging in the past. I've talked about all kinds of different things that give you that feeling of I own something special. And I think really knowing that the maker cares about your individual happiness, especially given the fact that that maker has never even gotten any money directly from you on the purchases that you've made, really does tell me that these are the good guys. And these are the guys that I do want to do business with in the future, and that I'm very, very proud to have a representation of their work in my pocket at all times. My buddy Chris had made a comment on one of my videos. We were talking, people were commenting about values of knives. And he says something to the effect of, I realize that I'm carrying in my pocket somebody's mortgage payment. And I never really thought of it like that. It's a rather profound statement. We take a lot of this for granted. But I mean, carrying this thing in your pocket, this is worth more than many people's mortgage payment. Something that major in your life that you would make that kind of comparison. So when you're investing this kind of money, you expect a certain degree of quality. And most of us that have been in the collecting game long enough realize that not everything is going to be perfect. A handmade product or even a hand-finished product, nothing done by man is ever going to be perfect. So we do expect, however, that the customer service behind that product, behind that purchase, is going to stand up to the amount of money that we're spending. And I've had a couple of bad experiences. Again, I have no reason to share those. They weren't the worst thing in the world. I just looked at it and went, really? If that's the way you want to be, then I will sell the knife, make sure the new owner knows about the issue, and I will never buy something from you again. So there are some times that you guys may comment and go, oh, hey, what about this knife that you used to have? Do you still have it? Or why don't you own that brand or that maker? There are sometimes very good reasons for that. I feel that if we're going to make an investment this big, that the maker needs to make an investment as well. And I don't just mean with the materials and their design. I mean, when that sale is done, I want to know that I can come back to you and say, hey, for whatever reason, I've got this crazy issue and my pivot's loosening. Or even if it's not something that would be a quote-unquote defect, if you went, hey, you know what? I really like the knife, but the clip just doesn't work for me. Can we work out something and I'm happy to pay you for it? Would you mind doing something to make it a little bit better for me? And when that maker will turn around and say, yes, absolutely, I'm happy to do that, that's a big deal, because there's a favorite word among makers these days that we're seeing more and more frequently, and that word is no. And I do realize these guys are busy. They are dealing with full books. They're dealing with people breathing down their necks, always making requests, big shows coming up. There are always going to be reasons why you would want to say no. But if there's any way that you can bend the rules, if there's any way that you can fit somebody in, try to make that effort. And I know it's a pain in the ass when you're busy designing and you're cutting parts and you're doing your assembly and you're grinding your blades, to stop at some point to even eat and see your family. But I know it's even harder to sit down in front of that computer and answer emails. And that's why I've told a lot of these guys, hey man, you're so friggin' busy, you're killing yourself doing that. Bring an apprentice in, bring somebody in that can answer those emails, or even sit in front of a laptop and yell out the email to you while you're working, and you can yell back the answer for them to reply to if they can't answer that technical question. But do whatever you have to do, because communication is a very big deal in any industry. I don't care what it is, especially when it comes to direct sales. Communication is key. And we've all heard the horror stories of certain makers that won't ever answer emails or won't be very helpful in the end. And those are the makers that right now are not very hot. They're the ones whose knives are going down in value instead of appreciating, or at least staying stable. They're not the ones that people are talking about all the time going, oh man, I really want a knife by that guy. His work is incredible and I've heard this and I've heard that. Because that's the key right there. I've heard this and I've heard that. This is an industry built on word of mouth at this point. If you go back 20 years, it was a really, really, really big deal if you were a knife maker to get an article about you in a big magazine. Oh man, that was a huge deal. And that could really change the course of your business. These days it doesn't matter that much. It really doesn't. Social media is king, whether it be YouTube, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. That is where this community is living and breathing. And when those stories spread, when somebody says, hey, I bought this knife from this maker and it was crazy jacked up, directly from the maker. Nobody else's hands were involved. It was jacked up. and I talked to him and he wouldn't even take it back. Or I sent it back to him and I got it back in the same condition and the guy said, I don't have time to mess with this. That's bad for your business. I don't care how big you are or who you think you are. It's going to hurt. But yet when that same story gets circulated with a different spin on it, when somebody says, hey, I bought this knife from Joe Blow Collector and I paid a lot of money for it, and gosh darn it, it has this one flaw that I wish it didn't have. So I reached out to the maker, and the maker said, well, I'm really busy, but I want you to have something that's perfect, so send it to me and I'll get to it as quickly as I can. And hey man, I got my knife back from that maker, and holy shit, it's like brand new. It looks better than it did before, it functions better than it did before, and now I'm happy with my purchase. That spreads through the community, and people remember that shit. And I think it's so easy, especially when someone gets to a certain level of popularity, it's easy to forget things like that. We've all done it. We've all made that very simple mistake. And it's not about being too proud. It's not about being arrogant. It's about, I know you're busy and you've got so many things on your plate. And you don't want to hear the negativity. You're in your zone, man. You can't deal with the negativity tonight or tomorrow or next week, and then you forget about it after that. And what happens is it may be sitting in your inbox getting pushed further and further down, but there's a possibility that story is spreading like wildfire on social media. So it's something that's really important that everybody should keep in mind. And it's not about wagging my finger at anybody. As a matter of fact, I think we should point the finger back at ourselves for a moment here. Collectors, those of you that have a voice in social media, whatever it is, if you've got 50 followers or more on any social media stream, try to remember the positives too. It's so easy sometimes to talk about the negatives, and because you feel it's important that everybody know, hey, don't deal with this guy because he steals your money, or I ordered a knife and I prepaid for it a year and a half ago and then he says I'm not up for the books yet and he lost my order and then he won't refund me. These are important things that should be told. But it's also important to remember even the small things, the good things, and make sure people are aware of that. Because you know what? These guys bust their asses. They work hard. The majority of them don't have health insurance, and they're putting their fingers in front of grinders and bandsaws and crazy shit. They're risking sometimes being able to do what they enjoy because it's a dangerous job. They risk that because that it is what they enjoy. They love making knives. They work hard. They're not sitting in an air-conditioned office in front of a computer all day. These are guys that are busting their asses, sweating their asses off, tearing up their hands, ignoring their families in a lot of cases because there's so much work to do. Some of these guys won't see their families, their wife, their kids for a week, 2 or 3 weeks prior to a big show like Blade because they've got to, nose to the grindstone, as they say. And they've got to get that work done. So it's important that we remember how hard they're really working. And most of them really aren't making what you think they are. The dealers typically make more money on a sale than the knife maker does, especially when you factor in time and dollars per hour in that time. And you realize that these guys really must love what they do for them to do it as long as they have. Look at these guys that have been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years of their life. It's certainly not for fame. And it's certainly not for fortune. They're doing it because they love it. And it's important that we remember that and we commemorate them and we acknowledge the good things that they do when they do go above and beyond. And there are so many that do. The horror stories that are out there, they're very few and far between. There are very few makers out there that don't go above and beyond. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that, just kind of get it out of my head. It was rambling around in my head today, and I figured, what the hell, I'll sit down and make a video for a few minutes and just kind of discuss that. And please, I'd love to see your feedback. I'd love to hear your good stories as well. That maker that just blew your mind and you went, holy shit, I can't believe that this guy did this for me with as hectic of a schedule as he's got. He stopped and he made me happy. I love seeing shit like that. Okay, guys, I'm going to cut it off here. I'm going to end it now. By the way, please do check my Instagram. I did make a big announcement today involving a very special charity auction that I'm going to be hosting on my May 16th live knife show. I don't do auctions, but I'm doing it for this one because it's for a great cause for children's cancer research. You won't be paying me. You will be paying the charity directly if you are the winning bidder. And I want to get the word out there. I want everybody to know about it. It's a very, very, very big deal. You can also check out the Facebook page for Diamond Jim's Live Knives Project, and all the information is there as well. So anyway, guys, I'm going to cut it off here, and I will see you on the next video.